I am the Chief Marketing Officer of a company called Everbridge. And here I have the real unique opportunity to work for a company that is actually out there truly helping to save lives with our technology. The things that keep me going in this space is number one, every day is a new day. The emergence of new technologies, emergence of new ways of doing things, most recently with the emergence of AI and how that's going to transform.
Welcome to the Job Dictionary podcast. Today, I'm going to be interviewing David Alexander, who is a Chief Marketing Officer at Everbridge. And welcome. First off, we're going to start with 3 questions that we like to ask all of our guests. So in your own words, what do you do, David? Where do you live? And what did you want to do when you were a kid and you grew up?
Awesome. That is going to be a great way to start. So thank you, Angie, and to the team for having me. I'm really excited to share with you today. And so, what do I do? Well, my current job is I am the Chief Marketing Officer of a company called Everbridge. And here I have the real unique opportunity to work for a company that is actually out there truly helping to save lives with our technology. And so what does Everbridge do? Well, we have a global platform that really empowers businesses and governments to proactively and effectively communicate with their employees and their constituents before, during, and after critical events. And so this may be, during a hurricane situation, maybe during a bridge collapse, something that's going to basically be disruptive to the community or to a business. And we help those organizations to strengthen their resilience posture during that disruption or during an emergency. And so I get to do a great job there. So as part of my role at Chief Marketing Officer, I'm essentially responsible for all of the marketing that goes out. And I like to think I'm really responsible for ensuring our customers have a great experience with our brand and a great experience with our company as well. And so truly am the representative of our customers here. In my free time, I'm also the executive professor and head of industry insights for Texas A&M and the Aggies and Tech program. So I teach students who are interested in pursuing careers in technology about how to take applications to market and how to think about marketing in new and unique ways, especially in this technology space. Where am I located? Well, I live most of my time here just outside of Seattle in a town called Issaquah, Washington. So we've been here almost 20 years. And I spend a portion of my time also in Texas, in College Station, Texas, where Texas A&M is, as part of my teaching responsibilities as well. What did I want to do when I was a kid? I think that was your third question.
Yes.
That's an interesting one. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was a kid. Probably some professional athlete, and obviously that didn't work out in my favor. So I still do, kind of ask myself, what do I want to do next? And so I think I've kind of constantly been on this ride where it's like not necessarily, what do I want to do? But it's kind of like, what do I want to do next? What else do I want to achieve? And what else do I want to solve in this lifetime? And what other big things do I want to go and try to create or build? So that's kind of how I think about my career and also addressing that question of what do you want to be when you were a kid? And I still really don't know exactly what that looks like. So so that's that.
Yeah. And David, I really just want to commend you. He was my professor, so putting it out there, an incredible person. He is really passionate about making an impact on anyone he works with, whether that's a student or his own employees. He really is Mr. Worldwide, you would call it. He's always traveling around and just a wonderful person to get to know. So I'm really excited to have you on today. And I would love to ask, how long have you been working on this field?
I have been in marketing for over 25 years now. It's interesting to say that because it used to be almost 25 years, and now it's like, it's been over 25 years. I've had a great career in working on multiple types of marketing and some of the world's biggest technology companies. Early in my career, I got to spend some time working with an organization called Frost and Sullivan, where I was really got my first step into technology, where I was doing a lot of market research and consulting for some really big brands at the time. And we were starting to be the pioneers in this space called web conferencing and video conferencing, and things like e-learning and telemedicine were early on. And so that helped me to, I did that for about 4.5 years, and that helped me to get my next role, which was at Microsoft, where I was for about 13 years in marketing and some sales roles as well, but mostly in marketing. And then took the 13 years, and I like to think about Microsoft, my time there, not just as a job, but it truly was kind of how I got my MBA, was my Microsoft MBA in so many ways, because I went and spent a lot of time learning new products, learning new marketing techniques, because the market was actually rapidly changing from a non-digital to a digital space during that time. We saw the implementation of social and a lot of new marketing technologies become available during that 13 years too. So it was a very fascinating time. We also saw the emergence of the cloud during that time as well. And so that was a big part of that, during my marketing time at Microsoft as well, with the emergence of things like Office 365, for example. And so after 13 years, I left and went to a company called SAP Concur, where I spent about 3 years, and then went from that role to another company called F5, who specializes in networking and cybersecurity, and was there again for a little over 3 years. And then now I've been at my current role at Everbridge for a little over 18 months. And so again, you add all those up, and I think it gets close to 25. And I had a couple of roles early on out of school that I didn't mention here, but that's really what I've been doing. The things that keep me going in this space is, number one, every day is a new day. The emergence of new technologies and emergence of new ways of doing things. Most recently with the emergence of AI and how that's going to transform the industry, have made this a really exciting space to work. And so even though I've been here for a long time doing these things, every day still feels very new.
That's awesome. And something that I feel like every time I speak with you, I get out of a conversation is that you are a lifelong learner, and that is a huge part of just being in marketing. So you talked a bit about your career path, and I would love to know, how did you get started? What made you choose marketing?
Marketing kind of chose me in an interesting sort of way. I out of school, I went into finance, and should not have gone into finance. So I spent about 1 year in finance out of school. And then during that role, a lot of the things that I was learning and a lot of things I was doing, I actually realized might make me a very good salesperson. And so because I had this affinity for the customer, I had this affinity for talking to them about products and value and communicating value, and also about how to kind of serve the customer in their best interest and use products to actually fulfill their needs. And so I left that finance role and went into sales for about a year. And that's where I started to understand what I think some of my natural gifts were. And did that for about a year. And then I had an opportunity to go into market research, and which was actually what I studied in school.
Okay.
And so after, kind of that opportunity and going in, one of the things that made me a really good analyst was the fact that I had all of these sales skills as well. So I understood who my audience was that I was writing a report or doing consulting work for. I understood how they were trying to add value to their customers and the information that they were trying to learn. So I was able to build a lot of great relationships and use a lot of those skills that I had picked up when I was a seller and use that in market research. So we started blending it. And so blending the two, these marketing skills and these sales skills coming together. And ultimately what people would call that now is more of a revenue marketer. And so that's kind of a term that's been around the industry for about 10 to 15 years. And really, it's not just about being a marketer that's focused on branding. It's a marketer that's really focused on driving revenue outcomes for the company. And so some of that sales background blended with the real kind of natural marketing skills as well, kind of just naturally took me on this path. And now, I'm just continue to chase where I can go add value. And, as an executive and as a leader, where I can go and really, help drive impact with businesses, but also with individuals as well. And so, how do I continue to grow teams? How do I grow careers? How do I help to, build where things need to be built and fix where things need to be fixed? And, so I don't necessarily see myself just as a marketer and a, seller anymore. I see myself more as an executive or a leader that's really trying to go make impact, whether that's on individuals, whether that's on the business, or even on industries as well.
Yeah. And so, specifically with your role being chief marketing officer and being in an executive role, could you talk about the specific degrees, certifications that you find yourself having, and perhaps like fellow people who find themselves in the same role as you having?
Yeah, for sure. So I got a marketing degree from Texas A&M a long time ago. I won't tell them when, but not on your podcast at least. But I was really interested in this concept of, I can just mention some of the sales skills and some of the early marketing skills, and really thought that marketing was the path for me. And so did get a marketing degree. As I mentioned earlier too, I didn't get an MBA, but I feel like my 13 years at Microsoft really was my MBA experience, getting to know and understand how technologies evolved, how businesses were evolving, and how they worked from multiple angles and multiple perspectives. And so I think that, is continuing to be where I study. And just like this industry, it's changing so rapidly, right? Technology and
Yes.
marketing both are changing so rapidly. So you really kind of have to always be a person willing to learn and willing to study and willing to try new things in order to continue to grow and evolve and ultimately drive impact. And so while I did get a marketing degree, I feel like all of the work that I've done as far as continuing to learn and invent myself and put myself out there and try new things and fail and grow and learn and all of the things, has been where most of the growth has come from.
That is great. And David, you are a marketer, but you're also a leader, and that's a big part of your day-to-day life. So could you share with me what day in the life every day looks like as in your role?
Yeah, no day is the same. I'll tell you, because you're going to constantly. So I would say, like, if I just step back and say what is my role as a leader, it's first to enable my team to be as successful as possible, right? And what drives their success? Well, there's personal success for them, there is business success for the team, and then there's company success for what we're trying to go and do as an organization. And so I have to kind of think about all three throughout every day. And so I spend a lot of my time reviewing things, removing roadblocks, helping people to see opportunities, help people see when they may not be headed down the right path as well. So sometimes kind of helping to show people the path and the direction, but also invest in their own growth. And then lastly, just kind of solving problems, working with the team to help solve problems, help us remove roadblocks and really go on that path that we need to as an organization. So you'll find that my role is super, super collaborative. So I'm constantly, working with others. I'm bringing people along on the journey. We're talking about vision and where do we want to go. So that's really where I'm spending most of my days. So you'll find that you may go, and that most of my days are filled up with meetings, but you'll go from a meeting talking about a new brand idea to one talking about business results, to one talking about, and a team need, something that the culture of the organization needs. And so there's a very, very clear shift from day to day, from hour to hour, especially as you look at the calendar, from what I would be doing on throughout the day.
Yes, definitely. I know you have days where you're back-to-back meetings, so I would love to know what percentage of the time are you working remotely? What times? I know you travel as well, so when do you get that person-to-person type of interaction? And to what percent would you say?
Probably about 20% of the time I'm in front of and with others, and those, most of my company is actually remote. So we're a company of about 1,700 people, but most of our executive team at least is remote. Most of my team works remotely, even though we have a headquarters just outside of Boston. And so I spend most of my time here in Seattle or again in Texas, but when I'm not there, I'm traveling. So uh, I would say, 20% I'm face to face with other people. And this has, really been something that kind of became something out of COVID. Before COVID, I would have said I would have been spending 90% of my time in an office working with other people, traveling as well
Yeah.
for my work, but definitely working with colleagues face to face. And then COVID came in and we saw this almost 2 full years where we were working remote. Even though my offices were here in Seattle, I was working remotely from my house here. This was when I was at F5. And so that kind of ushered in this new form of working that I got very, very comfortable in and still continue to be comfortable in today. And so I like being remote. I like being able to go wherever I might need to be. I've already been, today's Thursday. I've already been in 3 different cities this week, and that's okay. I kind of enjoy that, but I do take advantage of the time when I'm face to face to really get to know people, drive a clearer understanding of who they are, how we can go and work better, even in this remote environment. And I think taking advantage of that time, I probably take advantage of it more than I did before when I was spending 80 or 90% of my time face to face with people. Now that it's such a smaller percent of time, I really take advantage of
Right.
that time to get to know the person and really understand how we can work better together in a virtual format.
Yeah. And with so much going on and so many different aspects that are a part of your job, what are some tools or technologies that you do use on the day to day as a part of your job?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. I lean really heavily on tools like Slack or Teams as a collaborative kind of, you know, way to communicate very, very quickly. Email less so. I'm not a big. I don't love to email. I absorb a lot of information on email and send very few, kind of by design. But I send a lot more in Slack and Teams. And then your Teams and your Zoom kind of meetings are very, very important. I spend a lot of my day on both of those. And then honestly, this right here, this device is my lifeline. I spend a lot of time processing things, getting things done here, whether I'm remote or wherever I may be, because I can triage mail, I can communicate, and text is actually a great way as well for me to stay connected to a small group of people and keep things moving. So I've kind of got different degrees of urgency for things. It's like if you need
Yeah.
it urgently, text me. If it's next, semi-urgent, Slack or Teams, and if it's scheduled, it'll be Teams or Zoom. Or if you've got 24 hours for a response from me, email is the best way
Email.
to go. So it's kind of this tiered
Yes.
structure of communication, but I use all of those every single day.
Yeah. And okay, so let's see. So with the leadership aspect to your job, you've talked even to your students, again, being a prior student, I do get that. Understanding of how you are. I know you're constantly working to better understand your strengths, your weaknesses, areas to improve so that you can work with people better.
Yeah.
What excites you the most on the day to day in your role, and what is the most emotionally challenging?
That's a great question. I think the thing that does excite me is getting to work with people. Getting to work with really, really great people is what makes my job exciting and fulfilling, right? And whether that be, people that are executives in their careers that have been in their careers for 20 plus years, or working with my students as well, right? It's being able to engage with, learn from, and share experiences with, and teach and guide and grow other people is really what makes it all worth the time, worth the effort, worth the energy. and what gets me motivated to come and sit here in front of this computer every day as well. And so I truly do find a lot of value in personal fulfillment, professional fulfillment as part of that. So that would be kind of the positive. The difficult times is when you see people having a hard time, and so I would say, whether that be because it's a life event or something that's happening, or they're struggling in their role, or just not able to to get to where they need to be. That's probably the hardest times, because there's always going to be things that you're either in control of or out of your control, that are going to happen and going to happen to the team. And so, so I'd say those are the hardest times. But when you get through them and you truly help people to see opportunity and get through difficult times, it goes from the hard times into the most rewarding times as well. And so you always kind of look for that win-win, even in light of the difficult times, to help usher in a real opportunity to help the individual, help the team succeed, help the business
Yeah.
succeed as well.
No, agreed. And how long do you think it took you to maybe get, an understanding of how to approach those more difficult situations?
Well, I'm still learning. I would say. I think the key is to approach every challenge with a sense of calm, right? So it's very easy when good things happen, when bad things happen, when surprises happen, both good and bad, to get emotionally wound up one way or the other. And so I think calm is really the first attribute is just let's go and understand, right? And then the second is to be calm. Second is to really try to understand. So a lot of listening is really key as part of that. And so that's the whole like you've got two ears and one mouth for a reason thing, right? So really listen and understand before you start giving guidance. And so and then the third would be seek the win-win in everything, right? Seek the opportunity to find the best outcome in all things. And so and then I think you can get through those. It took me a long time to figure that out. The first one, being calm, was probably the hardest, and the one that took the longest amount of time was just how do you show up. And as an individual, as a leader, as an executive, you kind of always have to be thinking about how do you show up. And so showing up calm, measured, listening and understanding, what does that do? Well, it really builds trust on the other side, right? From the person you're working with, the person who may be dealing with the challenge, people you may be dealing with the challenge, and the people you may be leading through it. And so you listen, come in calm, you build the trust, and then you go put it back together and go after it. And so, and yeah, it took me a while. I had to get myself into some situations and fail and learn along the way. I continue to learn. I continue to try new things too. I'll see new techniques on how to get the best outcome, and I'll try things and I'll continue to learn there too. So kind of have to always be willing to fail. And when you do, don't be afraid to let people know that you failed or you made a mistake, and that you made a mistake and you want to make it right.
Yeah, agreed. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And very important for any role that involves leadership and just managing people in any way. So, David, with the nature of your work and your role being in an executive position,
Yeah.
do you feel that you can leave work at the office, so in your working hours per se of 9 to 5, or do
Yeah.
you take some home and feel that mixes up sometimes?
Yeah. Good question. I don't really work-life balance. There's this concept, right? And a lot of people talk about work-life balance. It means something differently for everyone, right? For some people, that means I come in at 9 after dropping the kids off at school, and I leave at 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever that time may be, because I've got responsibilities I got to go to. And that's great. And that's why I think you have to get an understanding of work-life balance and what it means for everyone. There's no true definition of that. For me, work-life balance means I have the opportunity to get my work done, whether that's every day, feel like I've moved things forward every day, whether that's ending at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which rarely happens, or ending at 10 p.m. Which is probably more more likely. But also, am I able to go to the Suns baseball game at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday? Though, because those are important for me to go to. And so, while I will make the baseball game, doesn't mean if urgent mail comes up or an urgent text comes in that I'm not responding. If we're driving to church on a Sunday morning, my wife might be driving. I might be responding to some emails quickly as things happened overnight. And that's not, and I don't really see that as, always being tethered to work. It's just kind of
Yes.
what my rhythm of life looks like. It's kind of how I get my job done, and I feel at peace, and I can continue to move things forward. I'm not a roadblock, but I keep them moving, and find that that's a real good way for me to work. And so I find myself highly productive in that fashion.
That's awesome. And since you are remote most of the time, I'm gathering from what you just shared that you don't really have set hours of the day, correct? So you just kind of work with whatever needs to happen on the day to day?
For sure.
So do you feel that you have a set schedule every day, like you work a 9 to 5, or do you find that it changes every day with the nature of what you have to do?
Yeah, I think it does really change every single day. And so, I do try to not start meetings if I'm on the West Coast before about 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. if possible. But oftentimes I will find myself in that situation. If I'm on the East Coast or wherever it may be, of course, that's going to change, evolve a little bit, especially if you're working with different parts of the world. And that's okay. That's kind of part of life. But I try to set my schedule based on what is the needs of the team? What do I need to get accomplished that day or that week? And then, kind of also what are the needs of the family? So I do have another group, another team that I'm trying to make sure I balance the needs of as well. And so each day looks a little bit different, but it's driven really by that schedule, whether that be the home schedule, the work schedule, or the needs of the team and what I need to get done.
Wonderful. Makes complete sense. As an executive role, there's definitely a different way to work and a lot of different things to do.
Absolutely.
David, could you tell me when are the most busy times in this job? I'm going to assume it's at the end of every quarter, but I would love to hear what the busiest time of the year is.
Wow. It's kind of always busy, interestingly enough. And work does kind of ebb and flow a little bit. And oftentimes, definitely at the end of the quarter, is super busy. But oftentimes, you will have things that will happen out of the blue that you weren't expecting that will make life very busy for a brief amount of time. Often that's going to be around needs of the team, needs of kind of going back needs of the family or, needs of the business. And so it's funny. It's really hard to schedule out too far in advance on some things because you'll oftentimes find that, there will be busy times that will emerge when you thought it was going to be a quiet time. And so I think you just kind of have to always be prepared, that it's going to be busy and then go in with the things that I mentioned around how to deal with those
Show
busy
up.
times and work through them for sure.
Yes, agreed. And David, what would you say people underestimate about this role?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a couple of things. Number one is the impact that you can have on the business outcomes, first and foremost. So, what can you do to help drive the revenue, the customer perception, the business outcomes, the culture of the organization? And that last one's really important because marketing can go a very long way in helping to build company and corporate culture. It's very important. A lot of people will look to HR to help go drive that, but human resources. But really, I think marketing can play a very, very key role there. That's kind of the first one. Um, the second is just how much leadership truly is required, right? And how you have to really think about yourself as a leader and put that first and foremost every single day. Again, making sure you're taking care of the needs of the team in an ongoing fashion, taking care of the needs of the business. Those are really, really key, and something that is a daily effort, I would say. And then the last is that anyone can do this work. I do think that people oftentimes will try to hold executives or people with C-suite titles in a different perspective than themselves, and I like to always help coach my leaders on how do you get to that chief marketing officer, or how do you get to that C level role, because I do believe they're all capable of getting there. It's just, can you nuance some things to put yourself in a position to go and be really, really effective there. And so I don't think that this role that I've got is out of reach for virtually anyone. And I think it's just, focus on leadership, focus on doing the things that are truly important. And I think you have an opportunity to go and make some big change. So those are the things that probably are most underestimated about the role.
Awesome. And what would you say people overestimate about this role?
Yeah, it's really not as glamorous as it might sound. So,
You'd be surprised the amount of times that I've heard a
yeah.
specific statement.
Absolutely, it's not as glamorous. There are, of course, I love my role, but I love my role not because of the glamour, but because of the impact that I get to make on a business or on people. And so, but it isn't truly as glamorous. You find yourself in a lot of meetings. You find yourself solving a lot of challenges, and it takes a bit of an appetite to be able to go from challenge to challenge to challenge. And so oftentimes you'll find, even in these roles, you spend more of your time thinking through the things that aren't working than you do celebrating the things that are. And so you kind of have to have a bit of an appetite for doing that as well. And so again, calm, listen, understand, those are really, really important aspects of the role.
Yeah. Okay, David, so you told me about all the different companies you worked with and your career path, with Microsoft, with F5. Could you talk about how you got to be a chief marketing officer and what the fastest way to get into that specific role could be?
I think probably starting with a smaller company would be the fastest way. You're not going to find yourself as the CMO of a large brand immediately. I think the path that I would probably take is one that gets really close to the data, and one that gets, data of the business, and one that gets really close to the customer, and one that gets really close to the product. And I used to like to say that, if you can understand how to talk to the customer, about their needs, and the need, how our products fulfill their needs, and how I can get and talk to the value that our products bring, and then the data in the organization. If I can get close to all of those things, that I'm on a really, really good path, either to get to CMO or vice president, or a very impactful role within the business.
So essentially, find a way to get the most holistic understanding of every area of marketing, which is a lot.
There is a
um,
lot, yeah, and that's
yes,
kind of another surprising aspect of marketing is the breadth of what we
yeah,
look at. Right, we're thinking about revenue, we're thinking about brand, we're thinking about customer, we're thinking about systems and tools. We're thinking about products. So there's a lot of breadth within the marketing space.
yeah. Could you share with me what fields, or I would say not even fields, because if you're going to be a chief marketing officer, you're going to come from a marketing background. But what are those roles specifically that maybe are right before, the moment that you go and get that job?
Yeah, I think digital marketing for sure is going to be key. I think actually, I believe that my background with either working with sellers or being a seller has gone a very long way in me understanding the needs of the business, and translated well into CMO role. I also think that there are things that you have to do as a leader as far as rolling up your sleeves and understanding how to solve problems. And that can be in any role, how to solve challenges within the business. And so one of the things I used to do when I was at SAP Concur is I would show up, and we had a team of business development reps which were early in stage career. And here I am, the senior vice president, and they've, outside of my office, I've got, let's call it 40 BDRs that are out there. A lot of them were early in career. And, when I was the executive there, but oftentimes once a month, I would let one of the managers know to set me up on one of the machines, and I would go in and I'd put my baseball cap on and my hoodie, and I would show up and I would sit in their chair. They didn't know I was going to do it. And I would sit there that day and I would do their job. Right. And that helped to, number one, gain a lot of respect from that team, that I wasn't too good to go and do their job. But number two, it helped me to respect the work that they were doing and to truly understand the work that was happening. And so I think the more that you can do things like that, even if it's just 24 hours or, 6 weeks or whatever it is, but kind of job share and understand the business from multiple angles, whether that be from the digital perspective, from the seller's perspective, from the customer's perspective. Those are really important learnings that ultimately put together this package that's that ultimately accumulates to being responsible for a business, because these are the things that I think about every day. And I can always go back to those experiences that I had when I said, yeah, I actually done this job. I actually understand, BDR, I have sat in your shoes, and it's a really, really hard job. And I understand the challenges you're dealing with. And let me offer this guidance to you, or let me offer this perspective from you, or let me listen to what challenges you're having and see where I can go and support you, because I truly have tried to understand what it is you do.
Right, because that builds trust once you have that experience and understanding, and you can connect with the people you're working with. And we talked about in leadership, how long it might take someone to become a good leader. And you talked about how that is something that's going to be ongoing and you're still learning on the day-to-day. But specifically with your role, do you feel that you are now really good at this job? I know you said you've been there for about 18 months.
That's right.
Or do you think it's about the same and you're going to continue learning on the day-to-day?
I learn, you got to learn every day. So while you might be good today, and I do think I'm good at my job, and I hope my team would tell you I was good. And that would be my assessment. Does my team say that I'm good at my job? And do they enjoy working with me? Do they feel like I'm an effective leader? That would be kind of how would I say, am I good at my job? But just because I'm good today, if I don't continue to invest in myself, my own growth, if I don't continue to invest in the team, tomorrow I won't be a good leader for them. And so I think that's super important. It's really easy once you, get to these points in your career where you feel like, hey, I never thought I would make it this high, where I've reached my dream job or dream title. It's very easy to get complacent and not continue to try to move things forward. And so that's where a lot of challenges start to happen. I think is really where people get to that point. And so, and you'll hear them often say, I just got bored in my job. Well, it's probably because you're not investing enough in continue to grow, continue to drive impact, and continue to grow your team. And so those would be the pieces that I would say, continue to invest in.
Continue to seek a way to improve every single day. It's definitely applicable.
Always.
Yeah, in every career. And if you want to get to a position like yours is huge. David, so I know with your experience, right, you kind of moved companies, right, when you became Chief Marketing Officer at Everbridge.
Yep.
But do you find that there is a typical promotion path that you could go from to get to be in that role, or is it not that way at all?
No, I think I think that's right. I think once you get those VP level titles in larger organizations, let's call it, that's, you know, VP, senior vice president, general manager level titles, you start getting the consideration for a C level title, right? And so so that seems to be the path. My last two jobs, I was, senior vice president and on the path to CMO at both of those, and but ultimately chose to kind of step out and go and do a different, something a little different
Yeah.
uh, with my current role. But yeah, I think it's go get those director, senior director, vice president, senior vice president type of roles, and there's a natural career progression that starts to happen and starts to get you in those places. Again, if you want to go and do that, be a highly effective leader. Number one, drive business outcomes. Number two, number three is don't be afraid of solving the big problems. A lot of people will run away from the big challenges, but people will see you as ready for those jobs when you're those three.
Yeah. Thank you. Those are three very important characteristics to keep in mind. I will note that down to include
Well,
it on our blog. So, David, this is a more personal question, and you can answer as broad as you would like with the
sure.
widest range that you would like. Is there maybe a statistic of the average salary that someone at your level would be getting?
That's a good one. It's really going to depend on the role, the scope of the role, the um, the type of
Size of the
company
company.
you're in as well. And so typically compensation will be made up of I'll go this way. Typically compensation will be made up of a base salary, a bonus of some sort, which is typically going to be tied to the business outcomes, and then a form of equity, whether that be in a
Okay.
publicly traded company or a privately traded company. And so that, depending on public and private, that will look like something different. Um, Again, there's a very wide spectrum. There's been a lot of studies that have been done, though. There's an annual CMO survey that's done on compensation for CMOs, and Angie, I'll point you to that one after this.
Awesome.
That I would go by those statistics. They're not top of mind for
Thank you.
me, but
Yeah.
I'm not in the process of negotiating my compensation right now, so I don't. They're not top of mind, but there's a bit of a range there, but typically, an executive salary will be made of those three components.
Different. So, David, once someone chooses to move on from this specific role, where do they go next? Do you find that there is a theme or do they just retire?
Huh. Um, I think there is, people continue to go from CMO to CMO. You'll find that they go from chief marketing officer to chief marketing officer to just kind of move to new brands and new roles. The tenure of an average chief marketing officer is just a little over 2 years on average. And so you'll find that CMOs will move reasonably fast from role to role. Some of the natural progressions would be to move from a CMO, if you wanted to continue to expand, to a chief revenue officer role, assuming you don't want to just go down the pure marketing path.
Okay.
Expanded scope would be to add chief revenue officer capabilities, and then or COO, chief operating officer,
Yes.
kind of scope into your role. In my role, for example, about 6 months ago, I'm still chief marketing officer, but added a general manager scope to my role. So now I have about a 30-person sales team. So I also manage a quota for a group of sellers, and it's largely because I just kind of understand that side of the business. And so, and it's go in and just continue to solve problems. And so, again, the theming there is go solve problems and people will give you more
Yeah.
of them to solve. And so,
Yes.
so you kind of just keep going down that path. But I would say the natural progression would be either continue to go that CMO path, CRO path, or potentially COO. You also see a lot of
Awesome.
folks will step out of, if they, don't want to do full-time CMO work. They'll do what's called fractional CMO or advising work. And those are common as well.
Awesome. Is that kind of consulting to
You can
some
think of it
extent?
as consulting. Yeah, it's a great way to think.
Awesome. David, we are almost done with the interview. Could you share with me some books, resources, podcasts, programs? What do you listen to every day that helps you learn and keep growing?
Well, I listen to my team every day, and so that helps me learn and keep going. I have a few go-to resources that I use on a very regular basis. There's a podcast I listen to. It's called the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast. He's got some um, great speakers that join him. They think about very provocative and good leadership topics, and so I know his guidance has been, and that podcast has been very impactful for me personally. And so that one's kind of the podcast. I read a lot, and so as far as I don't have a lot of time to read like full books, but I've got a few books here
Yeah.
that but I rarely have time to sit down and read a book, and so I'll read a lot of industry things. I will use LinkedIn as a source of finding kind of quick, shorter form content that I can go and read that is going to be relevant to whether that be AI or things happening in marketing or things happening with our customers. And then I actually find that, and I still get the Harvard Business Review
Yes.
magazine. I find that to be an impactful piece of content as well.
Yeah, when I was younger, my dad's office used to have those, and they would just kind of give them out, and he would bring them home and give them to me. That was always fun. So, David, could you tell me what is one thing you would tell your younger self when you were at the beginning of your career?
I think not to be so stressed about the day to day.
I need to listen to that.
Yeah, it can all seem very overwhelming, especially when you're young and new at a lot of these things. It can feel very overwhelming, and you'll ask yourself the questions of, is it going to work out for me, right? And I think that's not the right way to think about it. Is can I continue to make myself better every day, right? Can I continue on this path every day, week, month, year, and can I go down this journey? Because it truly is a journey. I think I probably would have asked myself a few very honest questions earlier on in my career too, and just said, number one, what am I good at? Number two, what am I not good at? Number three, what do I enjoy? And number four, what do I not enjoy? I would have probably had more honest conversations with myself about those things, and I would save myself probably some years of hardship, and so a couple of tough years in there when I wasn't pursuing the things I was good at and enjoyed, and probably made some not the right decisions on career pathing. But earlier, in my career, luckily when I was at Microsoft, a really great mentor of mine helped give me that framework I just mentioned. And as I started to spend more of my time, as close to 100% as possible, on the things I enjoyed and the things that I was good at, I found not only a lot more career fulfillment, but a lot more acceleration in my career as well. And so those were important questions for me as I thought about pathing, and I still ask myself those questions as I think about the journey that's still ahead, right? And even with teaching, which came up about 2 years ago, I didn't anticipate I would be teaching, and that opportunity came to me, and I asked myself a lot of those questions, like, does it fulfill the things that I'm thinking about? And it absolutely did. I didn't know how I was going to do it with the busy work life, but
You did.
I made it work, and it's been like such a fulfilling piece of my career and my life. And so I think, just that it's going to work out. It's going to, your path is going to find itself. And to not be too stressed about it is probably the right way to think about it.
Yeah. I was recently at a speaking event with a Nike general manager for like North America. She was like, you need to have heart and hustle for whatever you're doing, and that's what's going to take you places. I feel like that's exactly what you just said.
Absolutely.
So,
Completely agree.
yeah. All right, David. So while we wrap up, where is somewhere people can reach out to you or follow along with what you're doing at work?
Sure. Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to go for that, for sure.
Awesome. Perfect. And we will have that linked in the podcast notes so you can find him, see what he's up to and doing amazing things at Everbridge at Texas A&M with his students. And thank you so much for joining me today, David. You are truly a very inspirational person to hear, and your personality in the calmness that you speak with is very, very inspiring to every young professional that you work with. So I appreciate you for coming out today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Angie, and really enjoyed being here with you, and excited for all the things you're doing over there as well. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, David.
All right, take care.
You just got one episode closer to learning about the world of jobs out there. To explore the rest of our career categories and find your best fit, go to jobdictionary.com to sign up for the beta users waitlist. Then subscribe here to find the next episodes coming out this week. And as always, drop us a comment, review, or message to let us know how we can better attune our episodes to your specific needs. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Pinterest, and wherever else you're on socials to go get our short, snappy preview reels that expose you to new job options every day. Because here at Job Dictionary, we believe your big aha moment can be just one scroll away. Go check it out and get out there. Cheers!